1941. While the world watched the relentless advance of German military technology, a biplane of fabric and wood, considered obsolete since its inception, executed the most improbable attack of World War II. The Fairey Swordfish, ironically nicknamed Stringbag by British pilots themselves, achieved what the most modern warships and fighters could not: incapacitate the feared German battleship Bismarck. This is not just a story about outdated versus modern technology. It is the revelation of how the physics of naval warfare can be completely subverted when extremely low speed becomes an unexpected tactical advantage. What happened in those icy waters of the North Atlantic challenged all military doctrines of the time and proved that, in war, the unexpected often prevails over apparent logic. Understand the magnitude of this feat, we must first understand what the Fairey Swordfish was. Designed in the 1930s, this torpedo biplane possessed a wooden structure covered by doped fabric, a configuration that already seemed antiquated when it came off the drawing board. With a maximum speed of only 138 miles per hour, the Swordfish was slower than many World War I fighters. Its wingspan of 45 feet and 6 inches supported a maximum takeoff weight of 9,250 pounds. The armament consisted of a .303-inch Vickers machine gun mounted in the front, and a Lewis of the same caliber operated by the rear gunner. But the Swordfish's true weapon was its ability to carry a Mark 12 torpedo weighing 1,610 pounds, suspended under the fuselage as a deadly threat disguised as a flying anachronism. The contrast with its target could not be more dramatic. The Bismarck represented the pinnacle of German naval engineering, a 41,700-ton battleship that embodied decades of innovation in armor and armament. Its 8 main 15-inch turrets could fire 1,864-pound shells at a range of 22 nautical miles. Its side armor ranged from 12 to 14 inches of hardened steel, designed to withstand the largest naval calibers of the time. The German fire control system was considered the most advanced in the world, capable of calculating complex trajectories while the ship maneuvered at high speed. When the Bismarck sank the HMS Hood on May 24th, killing 1,415 men in a matter of minutes, it proved that it was not just an impressive war machine, but a real and immediate threat to British naval dominance in the Atlantic. The pursuit of the Bismarck mobilized practically the entire British home fleet. After sinking the Hood, the German battleship had disappeared into the vastness of the North Atlantic, posing a deadly threat to the convoy routes that kept Great Britain alive. Winston Churchill issued the order that would echo throughout the Royal Navy: sink the Bismarck. More than 40 British warships were deployed for the hunt, including the battleships King George V and Rodney, the battlecruisers Renown and Repulse, and multiple cruisers and destroyers. But there was a critical problem. The Bismarck was heading for occupied France, where it could receive air protection from the Luftwaffe and repairs in German-controlled ports. Time was running out quickly, and the British fleet needed something that could slow the German battleship long enough for surface ships to catch up. It was then that HMS Ark Royal entered the scene, carrying 15 Swordfish from 810 Squadron of the Fleet Air Arm. The aircraft carrier had been detached from Force H in Gibraltar specifically for this mission. The squadron commander, Lieutenant Commander Eugene Esmonde, knew he was leading his men on an almost suicidal mission. The Swordfish would have to fly through horrible weather conditions, with winds of up to 60 miles per hour and waves 30 feet high. Worse still, they would have to approach one of the most well-defended ships in the world, equipped with 22 4-inch anti-aircraft guns, 16 1,550mm guns, and multiple automatic machine guns. The math was simple and terrifying: fabric biplanes against the most modern German anti-aircraft artillery. At 1510 hours on May 26, 1941, the 15 Swordfish took off from the deck of the Ark Royal in conditions that would normally have prevented any air operation. The sea was so rough that the aircraft carrier rose and fell up to 40 feet with each wave. The pilots had to time their takeoffs with the precision of a maestro, accelerating at the exact moment the ship's bow pointed upwards. Once in the air, they faced crosswinds that threatened to tear apart their fragile wooden and fabric structures. The lead navigator, Sub-Lieutenant Pat Stringer, had to calculate the route using only basic instruments, fighting against turbulence that made it almost impossible to maintain course. For 2 hours and 20 minutes, the Swordfish flew through a storm that would have brought down more modern aircraft, their propellers cutting through horizontal rain and hail. When the Swordfish finally sighted the Bismarck at 1730 hours, what they saw was simultaneously majestic and terrifying. The German battleship cut through the waters at 27 knots, its main turrets rotating menacingly as radar systems detected the approach of the British biplanes. Captain Sir C. Ernst Lindemann had ordered all anti-aircraft guns to be prepared, confident that his experienced gunners would make quick work of the antiquated attackers. But then something extraordinary happened. The German fire control systems, calibrated for targets flying at speeds of 200 to 300 miles per hour, simply could not adequately track aircraft moving at only 120 miles per hour. It was like trying to shoot a fly with a precision rifle designed to bring down eagles. The attack began at 1747 hours, with the Swordfish dividing into two groups to confuse the German defenses. The first group, led by Esmonde himself, approached the Bismarck's bow, while the second attacked from the stern. The German anti-aircraft artillery immediately opened fire, creating a steel barrier in the air that should have been impenetrable. 4-inch shells exploded around the fragile biplanes, creating 200-foot-high water columns when they missed their target and hit the sea. But the Swordfish continued to advance, their low speeds allowing maneuvers that faster aircraft could never perform. They could turn almost on their own axis, climb and descend abruptly, and even fly sideways for short periods. It was a deadly dance between ancient and modern technology, with the physics of aerodynamics being rewritten every second. At 1755 hours, Sub-Lieutenant John Moffat launched his torpedo just 900 yards from the Bismarck. The Mark 12 torpedo, set to run at a depth of 22 feet, cut through the choppy waters towards the stern of the German battleship. What happened next changed the course of naval warfare forever. The torpedo hit the Bismarck exactly where its armor was weakest, at the junction between the hull and the rudder. The explosion of 750 pounds of amytal not only damaged the rudder, but jammed it completely at 15 degrees to port. In a matter of minutes, the most powerful battleship in the world became unable to steer straight. Captain Lindemann ordered engineers to attempt emergency repairs, but the damage was irreversible. The Bismarck could now only sail in large circles, unable to escape the rapidly approaching British fleet. During the night of May 26 to 27, the Bismarck fought desperately to maintain course towards France, but its speed had dropped to just 8 knots due to the damaged rudder. The British destroyers HMS Cossack, Maori, Sikh, and Zulu attacked throughout the early morning, launching torpedoes and maintaining constant radar contact. At 847 hours on the morning of May 27, the battleships HMS King George V and HMS Rodney opened fire at a range of 16 nautical miles. For an hour and a half, they poured 14 and 16-inch shells onto the Bismarck, reducing its superstructures to smoking rubble. At 10:15 hours, the pride of the Kriegsmarine disappeared beneath the icy waters of the Atlantic, taking with it 2,224 men. Only 115 survivors were rescued by British ships. The Swordfish attack on the Bismarck proved that naval warfare had entered a new era, where carrier-based aviation could neutralize even the most powerful surface ships. More importantly, it demonstrated that obsolete technology, when employed with courage and creativity, could overcome the most advanced military innovations. 15 fabric and wood biplanes, flying at speeds that seemed ridiculously low by 1941 standards, achieved what decades of naval development had not anticipated, transforming slowness itself into a decisive tactical advantage. The physics of war had been rewritten by brave pilots flying machines that should have been retired years earlier, proving that in war, as in life, the impossible often becomes inevitable when human determination finds the perfect opportunity.